Part-10 Federal Financial Procedures. 115. No tax to be levied or loan to be raised. 1. No tax shall be levied and collected except in accordance with law. 2. No loan shall be raised and guarantee be given by the government of Nepal except as provided for in the federal law. 116. Federal Consolidated Fund, except for the revenues of trust, Guti, all revenues received by the government of Nepal, all loans raised on the security of revenues, all amounts received in repayment of any loan made under the authority of any act, and any other monies received by the government of Nepal shall, except as otherwise provided by a federal act, be credited to a government fund to be known as the Federal Consolidated Fund. 117. Expenditures from Federal Consolidated Fund or Federal Government Fund. No expenditures shall be incurred out of the Federal Consolidated Fund or any other federal government fund except the following. A. Money is charged in the Federal Consolidated Fund. B. Money rate required to meet the expenditure under a Federal Appropriation Act. C. Advance monies authorized by a federal act required to meet expenditures when an appropriation bill is under consideration. Or D. Expenditures to be incurred in extraordinary circumstances under a Federal Vote of Credit Act, which contains only a description of expenditures, provided that matters relating to the Federal Contingency Fund shall be governed by Article 124. 118. Expenditures chargeable on Federal Consolidated Fund. The expenditures relating to the following matters shall be charged on the Federal Consolidated Fund, and approval of the Federal Parliament shall not be required for such expenditures. The amount required as remuneration and facilities of the President and the Vice President. B. The amount required as remuneration and facilities payable to the Chief Justice of Nepal, Justice of the Supreme Court, and members of the Judicial Council. C. The amount required as remuneration and facilities payable to the Speaker and the Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives and the Chairperson and the Vice Chairperson of the National Assembly. D. The amount required as remuneration and facilities payable to the chiefs and officials of the constitutional bodies. E. The amount required as remuneration and facilities of the chiefs of provinces. F. The administrative expenses of the offices of the President or the Vice President, the Supreme Court, the Judicial Council, the constitutional bodies, and the offices of chiefs of provinces. G. All charges relating to debts for which the government of Nepal is liable. H. Any sum required to satisfy any judgment or decree made by a court against the government of Nepal. And I. Any other sum to be chargeable by the federal law on the Federal Consolidated Fund. 119. Estimates of revenues and expenditures. 1. The Minister for Finance of the Government of Nepal shall, in respect of every fiscal year, lay before the joint sitting of both houses of the Federal Parliament an annual estimate setting out inter alia the following matters. A. Estimate of revenues. B. Monies required to meet the charges on the Federal Consolidated Fund. And C. Monies required to meet the expenditure to be provided for in the Federal Appropriation Act. 2. The annual estimate to be laid pursuant to Clause 1 shall also be accompanied by a statement of the expenses allocated to every minister in the previous fiscal year and particulars of whether or not the objectives of the expenses have been achieved. 3. The Minister for Finance of the Government of Nepal shall lay before the Federal Parliament an estimate of revenues and expenditures referred to in Clause 1 on the 15th of Jesta mid-May each year. 120. Appropriation Act. The monies to be spent under an Appropriation Act shall be specified under concerned heads in the Appropriation Bill. 121. Supplementary Estimate. 1. The Minister for Finance of the Government of Nepal may lay before the House of Representatives a supplementary estimate in case it is found in any fiscal year. A. That the sum authorized to be spent for a particular service by the Appropriation Act for the current fiscal year is insufficient, or that its need has arisen for expenditures and some new service not provided for in the Appropriation Act for that year. Or B. That the expenditures made during that fiscal year are in excess of the amount authorized by the Appropriation Act. 2. The sums included in the supplementary estimate shall be specified under the related heads in a supplementary appropriation bill. 122. Votes on account. 1. Notwithstanding anything contained elsewhere in this part, a portion of the expenditure estimated for the fiscal year may, when an appropriation bill is under consideration, be incurred in advance as provided for in the Federal Act. 2. No vote on account bills shall be introduced until estimates of revenues and expenditures have been laid pursuant to Article 119, and the sums involved in the vote on account shall not exceed 1/3 of the estimate of expenditures for the fiscal year. 3. The expenditures incurred in accordance with the Federal Vote on Account Act shall be included in the appropriation bill. 123. Boards of credit, notwithstanding anything contained elsewhere in this part, in case owing to an emergency due to either natural causes or afraid of external aggression or internal disturbances or other reasons, it appears to be impractical or inexpedient in view of the security or interest of the state to specify the details required pursuant to Clause 1 of Article 119, the Minister of Finance of the Government of Nepal may lay before the House of Representatives a vote of credit bill giving only a statement of expenditures. 124. Federal Contingency Fund. 1. A federal act may create a fund to be known as the contingency fund, into which such monies as may be determined by the federal act shall be deposited from time to time. 2. The fund referred to as in the clause 1 shall be under the control of the government of Nepal and may meet any unforeseen expenditures out of such fund. 3. The amount of the expenditure referred to in clause 2 shall be reimbursed as soon as possible as provided for in the federal act. 125. Act relating to financial procedures. Matters relating to the transfer of monies appropriated by a federal act from one hand to another and other financial procedures shall be as provided for in the federal act.